minute, and then we'll get started with the programming.
All right. Oh, she's recording.
Yes. They said they were going to record us.
I guess it's time to put on my mask so you can't identify me.
Yeah, I feel like I need to be wearing a mask in this conversation.
I guess I should mute my phone.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, David.
Laser says backlight.
I was going to say, Head Van Dan, what lights do you guys have back there? Are those the apertures?
It's making us all look bad.
Oh.
Well, we are.
I've got some Chinese antiques behind me.
We are working on our video skills, so we gotta represent a little bit.
Looks like any high quality YouTube video. Always starts with the nice background and lighting.
You go upstairs.
Welcome everyone. This is the first inaugural event of the TRM Business Club. I'm Moishi Eisenman, member of TRM, and really excited for all of you to have joined us. We'll get to the programming right in a second, but just for people who don't know, or people who joined for, out of excitement, TRM Business Club is really an initiative started by some members of our community, really to highlight some of the incredible, business leaders and thought leaders we have in our community, educating our members, but also hopefully post-COVID and maybe some events online in the near future, provide a space for, business-minded members in our community to network. We have so many incredible trailblazers and incredible people in our community from a business perspective. And, this will be one of many events, focused on our business event. Let's get right into our guests. We have Hetvandan Zevi, we have Joy Wilson, and Yehuda Daniel, three incredible business owners of our community. Really, really happy to have each of you on. I'll start by giving each of you just quickly the mic to quickly give like a one-sentence introduction on what you do, what the core of your business is. So, Hedva Dan, you want to take it away first?
We'll refer to Hedva first.
We are Chadvan Dan Zevi of Chadvan Dan Photography. We do photography for, we do photography for birth, bris, weddings, everything in between. We love being a part of people's smachot and being included in that part of the process and being able to capture your events for you. And I'm a little camera shy.
They're also available for Zoom background consulting. As you can see, it's top notch. We're really happy to have both of you on. Yehuda, how about you?
I'm muting myself. Hi, Yehuda Daniel, physical therapist, doctor of physical therapy. Started off as a coach way back about 15 years ago in Israel. I'm now running a PT practice. If anyone knows, by Dr. Grayjar's office next to the monument. And I'm happy to help out. Any, me thinking myself as a successful businessman, I'm far from that, but I have my 2 cents on everything that's happened in my field and through my experience.
Awesome. Well, we're happy to have you on, and also incredible and relevant background. Can't say I'm not jealous that you have access to an actual gym here. Joy, how about you?
I'm Joy from Joy of Cakes, and I do custom cakes, cookies, anything for any type of party, whatever you dream of, I guess I can make it. I'm mostly popular for my cake pops, I guess, in Riverdale. Those are a hit. But Really, I can make anything.
Yehuda after you.
I know. I'll send all my customers to Yehuda after, Benji said.
And I'll send them back so we can have some kind of.
We'll take the pictures before and after.
Yeah. That's how we all relate tonight, guys.
So, and also obviously extremely happy to have you on. So just so the audience knows, we'll have two main sections to this event. The first one is we have a few prepared questions for each of our guests. They'll probably take anywhere between 20 to 30 minutes, give or take. But afterwards, you know, we have plenty of time for Q&A. We want to make sure to, you know, that everyone gets the opportunity to ask questions to our guests. So what I would say is, if throughout the conversation you think of some questions, feel free to already put them in the chat. But after we go through, you know, 20, 25 minutes, it's just some topical questions. You know, we'll start going through the questions in the chat and we'll ask them. So first and foremost, just wanted to start, you know, the story of each and every one of your businesses, right? So what was it that, what was the catalyst? What was the moment that you decided to be an entrepreneur? And, you know, give us kind of a bird's eye view of your business, kind of from idea to where it is right now. Het van Den, you want to start with this one?
Hey guys, yeah, I think Hedva has a lot to say. she's full of passion in photography. So am I, but really it started, excuse me, with her. That's kind of how we met. You want to go for it, hon, the story?
At my roommate's engagement party, I met Dunn because he was her fiance's brother. And I was taking all the pictures there, not professionally, just with my regular camera. And that's something I used to do all the time at events and family gatherings, to the extent where the family either got annoyed or loved that I was always doing that. But the end result was always that we had the memories, and we always had something to look back on and remember those awesome times. And especially when people started passing on, we still had those wonderful memories to look at and remember them by. And it was something I was always very excited about since I was young, really young, like 6th grade. I had a camera and I just started taking lots of pictures. To the point where when Dunn and I got married, I had like albums of pictures, and he's like, I think we need to go through this and kind of like, you know, get it down a little bit.
Yeah,
and he found an album
we
where
have a prop. We have a prop.
I was a kind of a weird kid, but I used to write in, I don't know if you guys can see this, but I used to write like,
here, maybe
this better. I used to write in them and say like, this album belongs to Chadva Shafter. But then as time went on, I got a little more creative and started writing things like, if these pictures are found, you can send them back to Chadva's Beautiful Photos, P.O. Box, something in New York City, which I didn't live in New York. I lived in Cleveland, Ohio. I don't know why I made that up, but it was just very interesting. Like, and I forgot about it. And then Don found it, and he's like, this is funny because now we live in New York. So that was just a little tidbit. But then when Don and I got married, we started talking about different things that really moved us. And he could tell that I loved pictures. I mean, like I was always taking them. And then at some point we were like, oh, you know, we were kind of dabbling a little bit. We got a better camera. And we started taking pictures for family and friends. And then we took pictures of ourselves when we went on vacation one time, and a cousin of ours saw it, really liked it. And then she was like, well, my daughter's having a bat mitzvah in Cleveland, and, you know, we're looking for a photographer. We kind of worked it out with her. And that was our first real bat mitzvah in Cleveland, Ohio, with my cousin Ronit. And since then, I mean, it kind of has bloomed into what people know us as today. Our first supporters in this community were Leslie and Mark Belkin. I've been friends with Leslie since I started at SIR many years ago. She's been a really good friend to me. And when she saw that we were starting, we started the photography business, she was very excited, and she wanted to use us for her oldest bar mitzvah. And then at the same time, the Glazers were also making a bar mitzvah that year. So she recommended us to them, and then Yardina and I started talking. Yardana actually said a few things. I'm from Cleveland. I don't really know what these big bar mitzvahs are like here. And she said something. I asked her what like the schedule of the night was going to be. I remember this very clearly. She's like, a regular bar mitzvah, you have cocktail hour, you have this. And I'm like, I don't know what regular bar mitzvahs are. And I just like, I learned so much from them, and they were really good to us, and they really helped us be able to figure out what the process should be for us. And they gave us good tips, and they helped us really work out like what works and what doesn't work. And from there, it really was just a word of mouth kind of thing. We were posting some, but we really saw that people liked us as individuals and as a unit together, and they really loved our work, and they started recommending us to people. And there came a point pretty soon on where we were getting people we've never met before. We started getting people calling us or messaging us, friends of mine I hadn't been connected with in years, people Dunn hasn't heard from in a while or didn't even know he knew, and that they lived in New York. And it was just, it's been a really amazing experience and journey for us. And we love it so much that our whole wall is decorated. You can only see a little bit of it, but hopefully when COVID is done, then we can have guests over again, and everyone can see our beautiful clients.
Yeah, we just both felt, like we were both interested in it, and it always made us smile. And, we enjoyed, when other people loved our work, that really meant a lot to us. And that's kind of how it started, I would say. We were, we just loved it.
In the beginning, when we would send over the galleries, either for a preview or for the full gallery, we'd always like kind of get a little like, did they get it yet? Then we would like be refreshing our emails to see if they got it.
Yeah.
And if they liked it. And I think that the feeling still is there, that we want to make sure that people really love their images and they love their experience. And that's something that we still feel very passionately about, that it's not just about coming to an event or coming to a session and capturing your family, but it's also about the experience afterwards as well. We want to make sure that people really enjoy looking at their photos forever. And they love working with us exclusively.
Great. Well, it's your passion definitely speaks volumes, and I'm sure there is a PO box somewhere in New York that has a whole bunch of pictures sent to that.
Hopefully not.
So Yehuda, how about your story?
So first, I want to say that I met Chadvan Dan a long time ago, but for the first time professionally, I met Dan the other day, and I have to say that he made me feel very, very comfortable. And I also saw the pictures. You have to know that those pictures have been taken in very hard conditions. So just so you guys know, mighty professional.
Your smile is too contagious. You're a great guy.
I've always been interested in movement and the creation of movement systems since I was a kid. I always had a knack for sports. I played on all the sports teams. I did all types of martial arts. And I knew I was going to teach movement on the highest level at a certain point. I just never knew the right way. Where do you go? Do you become a physiatrist? Do you become an orthopedist? With time, it was just the collection of my skills that allowed me to work with different populations, no matter what certification I had. So to begin with, I wanted to be independent. I knew I wanted my independence because I grew up in, my father was a dentist, and I saw he started every day at noon. He was able to learn in the morning, and he opened his clinic every day at noon, and he loves his business. He loves what he does with people's teeth. And I always saw myself as somebody helping out some other people on my time with, me being my own boss and doing that. So that was always the goal. I had to go through all different types of trainings to be able to achieve my goal. I only achieved that goal recently, where I have my independence and I have my freedom to create my own schedule. And I also have, how do we call it, artistic freedom, because I can choose. There's no one looking behind my back, over my shoulder, to see what I'm doing. So that's the way I got to it. Was I was a trainer 15 years ago in Jerusalem, and I knew I had a good basic skill set to start physical therapy school, and work at the same time. But Israel wasn't the right place for me because that's not where I had the opportunity to see people who would acquire my skills. That's where we decided to come to New York. I thought that New York would be the place where luck would most likely find me. Once I got to New York, I started going to school. My goal was to get a doctorate in physical therapy. And really with every step of the way, learning biology, learning psychology, nutrition, every step of the way has helped me become a better trainer in parallel. So as I was working, I became better as a trainer, and with the goal of becoming a physical therapist. The reason I wanted to become a physical therapist was because I had all the elements of a coach, except I was missing this one phase of life, which was injury. And I wanted to be able to see any person in any phase of life in light of their injuries, and it wouldn't matter to our training, and that's why I became a physical therapist. And right now, my goal in my philosophy is to show that it's all one. Physical therapy, fitness, nutrition, those are all type of under one umbrella of health, and I'd like to be synonymous with that overall, the health, the fitness.
Awesome. That's great. And I mean, your love of mobility is, I mean, you see it throughout all your work. Joy, how about you? How did Joy of Cake start?
My mom is here like laughing. Basically, I guess, I don't know, my whole life I was into making cakes and stuff. So when I got married, I used to make my husband birthday parties and always make my own cake. They were always like cute, like a shirt with a tie or something like that. I think one of my best cakes early on, I made my dad a Kokiba cigar cake. So then at one of Benji's birthday parties, one of his friends said, well, if you like making cake so much, why don't you just do this for a living? And I was like, oh, you know what? I hadn't really thought of that. So I, like the very next week, enrolled in pastry school, and there began that. It was just like it was a 9-month course, but 2 weeks into the course, I got pregnant with Rachel, my oldest. So then the cake situation took a little bit of a hold. I did like things here and there, mostly for friends, like friends of ours had a baby, so I'd make cookies, things like that. And then when the kids got a little bit older, I did even more. And then I would say like 3 or 4 years ago, I turned it into like a blossoming business where I'm more full-time. I still am at home with the kids when they need me, but I do it a lot more full-time now. Great.
So Hedva Dan, I think it's really interesting kind of your work and relationship, especially when you compare it kind of to all of us here and as the panelists and the audience, because not only are you a business that's owned by 2 people, but you're also obviously married. So tell us about that. What are some of the unique challenges and opportunities here, but also more importantly, how do you utilize kind of each other's strengths to optimize your business?
You want to start?
Who goes first?
Yeah. I started. In the beginning, I was working as a special ed teacher, mostly full-time. And I think that we kind of thought that photography was like you take a picture and then you do a little bit of work afterwards. And we saw very quickly that it was going to be taking a lot more time than what we had originally thought. So at the time, Dunn was working from home for a company that sold dental equipment. And he stopped working on that so that he could go full-time into the editing, and that's what he does. That's how it kind of like, it was like fluid in that way. Like it kind of made sense for him to do that all day. And then came home and I started doing the client calls and, scheduling things with people and calling people back. And that's what we're still in that mode where I do most of the client calling and he does the editing and retouching. I do more of that kind of work as well now, but especially in the beginning, we kind of had our separate shtick, I guess, that we were doing in the business. But we were both working on the photography together, so we can both shoot. Now we can both shoot independently. We actually both shot independently over the weekend, and then on Thursday night as well. I did a bat mitzvah, he did a proposal. Yesterday, I did a family session, he did a bris. So it's amazing in that way that we're able to really spread ourselves out and do more work with people and really be able to do as much as we possibly can. I'll tell you for me personally, it kind of feels right to work with my spouse. It was something I grew up with. I grew up in a family business when my parents always worked together, and I kind of thought that all parents were supposed to work together. And then my parents have an amazing way of working alongside each other, and they really love and respect each other. They both had their separate things that they did in the business, but at the end of the day, they always went to work together. They came home together, and literally never saw them fight. And I think that was something that I brought into our marriage too, that when we started the business together, it just kind of made sense. It felt right. And we did have to discuss what was going to be and how we were going to work things out, but we agreed in those ways, right? When I started doing the calls and he was doing the editing, it made sense. If Dunn was working on something and he was introducing me to it, then it just flowed. It felt normal.
That's great. It's great that it's. I remember from we had a conversation before the event, and you said said something when people ask me how does it feel working with your husband, you're like, I don't know anything else, right? So that's great. Joy, when we look at Joy of Cakes, it's kind of a truly digital first business. Your Instagram account, and we're going to talk about that later, is obviously a main source of kind of how people know about your business. What are some of the challenges that people might not think of having a business that lives so digitally?
I think it really depends on the business, but in my situation, I would say that the hardest part is not actually meeting your customers. You start your relationship totally online via DMs and Instagram or text messages or sometimes email. So you don't actually get to meet them. And so you can't really form that relationship firsthand. I'm only meeting my customers once I deliver their product already. So I think that's hard about that. And also because everything is so custom, it means a lot more back and forth. I don't have someone coming in and bringing me their pictures or their ideas or their tablecloth colors or any of that. Everything is through pictures. So they'll send me a picture and then I've sent them some ideas and then they send me ideas. And it's a lot of back and forth. So that in itself could be its own job, just working with them to get the order. You don't even always get the order in the end after all that back and forth. So I would say that's probably the only thing I can think of that's hard about being mostly online. You don't have a storefront. They can't see your stuff firsthand. They're basing it all on pictures or recommendations from other people. Things like that, I would say is the hardest.
Yeah, I mean, it's a new type of challenge, right? It's a challenge that we don't really have. So you're obviously kind of creating the ship as you're sailing. Right. That's really awesome. But then on the other hand, Yehuda, for you actually have a brick and mortar business. So a lot of people in business, when they see a bakery or PT business, they're like, oh, you kind of just start the process, right? It's super easy. But obviously there are challenges and it's obviously something I think a lot of people will think about. So Yehuda, can you tell us a little bit more about the process of getting an actual brick and mortar business up and running?
I originally was a big advocate for build it as they come. So if you get enough clientele, you'll have to make a place for them to come to. Now, after my experience with COVID, I can't really tell you that that's my definitive answer to how to really run a business. In the beginning, you really have to. So what happened was this: I came into a business that was running, and in March 15th, everyone canceled for the whole week. So we had from 100 pages a week, we had maybe 10 come that week. So at the time I went to the doctor that was running the business, that was, sorry, the landlord. And I told him that I'm going to sit there in the business. I'm not really going to have anyone come in, but I want to just be able to sit there and not get paid. So eventually when somebody gets hurt, eventually when somebody wants some therapy, they'll come in. We actually have been early on. I've been following this since February because I knew this affects my business a lot. So the equipment you see behind me, I ordered in February before I went on vacation to Israel because this might have happened. So it's really, I didn't know how much foresight I had. I just wanted to have a gym at home. I was really afraid that I would come back and I wouldn't have a gym to train with my patients, with my clients and myself. So that was my concern. And it happens to be the thing that saved me in the rough times, April, March. I was able to still see people masked and distanced inside my gym. So I would sit on the stairs behind me and people would train inside, masked, distance, and it worked. In my little clinical experiment, where I've been working for 6 months in a clinic and in my gym over here with people, I've had 0 infections. And we've been following up with patients also to see, who's been where, so just to make sure that we're safe. And in our experience, and you could look at New York kind of as ground zero, or especially close to New Rochelle, we were very close to some people who got infected. In fact, the offices above us got infected. So I can't even say that it wasn't close to us, but really masking and distancing worked for us 100%. It was not one infection. So that's my own testimonial. That's
great. And we'll talk a little bit later also about kind of the period, the past few months for you, because that's, I think, is very interesting. We'll touch on that in a bit. But Joy, back to you. So for people who don't know, and highly recommend you follow Joy F. Cakes on Instagram, but you have over 10K Instagram followers, which especially in our Jewish community in general is really impressive. Tell us a little bit about what are some of the best practices that you have learned to building a strong social presence.
So it's not an easy feat to get to 10K. I learned. I thought when I started, like, oh, everyone's at 10K, I could get there. So it definitely took a few years, and I couldn't understand why it was taking me so much longer. So what I learned is that not every Instagram account that has a ton of followers are very authentic. A lot of them buy their followers and stuff. And in the end, that reflects poorly on your business. So that doesn't even help you, because people have learned now that social media has been around for a few more years, people have learned that it's like not just a number at the top of the Instagram page. It's actually about the quality of your followers and the loyalty of your followers. So I guess the most important thing is to be authentic. Even though I'm only at 10K and there are other food people who are at 30K, like, it doesn't really matter. As long as my 10K follow me, they care about my content, they comment, also they become customers later. That's really like all that matters. The other thing that I would say is definitely it's important to build relationships with the people who are at higher levels in the Instagram world. It is like kind of a hierarchy, like the more followers you have, but obviously if they're real followers. So I did, that was another thing that I did to build mine, is I definitely collabed with lots of influencers, and I stuck mainly to the Jewish influencers because really that's the focus of my business, is a kosher bakery. So primarily I would work with them, which basically entails you giving them stuff for free for their advertising. And most of them worked out really well. I chose my people carefully because I learned that some people are fake and some people don't have real followings. So I definitely made sure to pick a few influencers, not everyone who wanted something. And there were a lot of people who come to you also. Like a lot of people go for the smaller accounts at first because they think I can get whatever I want from them. So I learned how to differentiate who I should work with and who I shouldn't work. And also another thing about social media that people don't realize is that it is also a full-time job to keep your Instagram running. You have to create content. You have to create content that people want to see. You have to also have your feed look pretty and nice, so anyone who's coming and landing on your page for the first time sees it and is impressed with it and wants to stay and see what you have to say and why they should be there for you. It's not only just Kate. If people follow me, they'll see, like, I have followers who only care about what I'm wearing that day, and they want to know where my skirt is from and where my shirt is from. So like you have to be all different types of people. Like, I also post some recipes. People love that. People just want a place to go to where they can get a lot of knowledge from. Like, people aren't so much interested in just a lookbook anymore as my Instagram started off at. So I had to learn that in order to grow my business.
I think what you said about, it's not just about the number at the end, it's about the quality of followers. I think is really true. A lot of people get lost with just the number, and they don't realize at the end of the day, like, if you have a curated, follower list of people who love your content, it's really powerful.
Right.
That's fun. Dan, when looking at your kind of business and how it goes through during our conversation, you said you credit kind of word of mouth as kind of the biggest growth factor behind, your business. So what are some of the benefits, but also what are some of the challenges as far as running a business that relies, heavily on word of mouth?
It's great when people recommend us. And then we find that people are doing that a lot. And I think that people are excited about us. And that's really meaningful for us because and I compared this one time, I might have even been talking to you. When you go to somebody's house for a Shabbat meal and you tell them you love their food, but the host knows you really mean it when you ask for the recipe, because that's something that you want to incorporate in your own home. So telling us you love our photos, and we love positive feedback, right? But also when people recommend us to their friends and family, that really carries a lot of weight. The negative side of it is that you can't really depend on that, right? It's wonderful, and it is where a lot of our work comes from. And I would say that it's not just word of mouth in terms of texting friends and family or talking to them, but it's also being tagged on Facebook and Instagram, people sharing, like if we did a family session or a bar and bat mitzvah or a wedding, then the people in the photos are sharing the pictures, and they're tagging us or not tagging us, even just sharing those photos. People are going to see it and get excited and want to know who those photographers were and what their experience was like. So Facebook is a great way to market, but it's not the only way. And it's actually something that we're working on. So you ask a good question. It helps. It's just, we can't rely on people. Like you have to assume that they're going to forget about you in about 3 minutes. And you just got to keep being in their face. Right. We're trying to post much more. But it like Joy said, and we will echo what she's saying, it is a full-time job. It really does. Each post that we put up, we have to make sure the pictures are good. The way that we run, how we post things is we always ask clients for permission before. Yep. Not everybody wants their kids online. Not everybody wants to be online. And we get that question a lot. Are you just going to post us? Because they see that perhaps maybe other people do things that way. But I think also for me as a school teacher, I don't feel comfortable putting children up online without explicit permission. And I think maybe in the beginning I did this once or twice. I'm usually the one who writes the posts. I get like excited and put a lot of emojis in there. So that's really very girly of me.
Specialty.
But in the beginning, I really didn't even want to say the kids' names. I still don't do that because that's children's privacy is really important. And it's not something that we forget about. And if the parents are willing to let us post, that's amazing. Sometimes people say yes, and they only say specific pictures are permitted. And we're very, grateful for that. And sometimes they really just don't feel comfortable. And we say, no problem, because it's your pictures, it's your faces. We do, then ask them if they're, they don't want us to post, if they could just, recommend us, like that's the way that we kind of get things out. But, it's not the only way. And there definitely needs to be more marketing on our end to be able to get more out there.
Yeah, and I'd like what you mentioned also, about asking permission. At the end of the day, if word of mouth is a big driver of your business, your name is everything, right? So like being able to ask for permission and do everything as good as possible is key to that. Yehuda,
Can I say one thing about Instagram? Because
yeah.
Joy, I don't really know as much as Joy. I feel like Joy knows a lot more than I do. But there's also something I saw also about these people with like 1 billion followers. If you actually look at their pictures, they don't always have a lot of likes and comments,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's something to like notice, that I started to notice myself, like comparing data. Like if we actually have almost 1,000, which to us is a big deal. But like what's happening on our page? Like, are people interacting with us? Are people liking and commenting? And we're seeing some, like, a nice amount of interaction compared to the amount of people that are following us. And this Facebook, I think, is a little harder to get interaction. I think that the algorithm is different there, and definitely limits. Facebook definitely limits in terms of being able to tag people. And if I share it on my personal page, then I get more likes, but not necessarily. It's a whole game, and really just, it's all in the hands of God. That's
they do want money. Facebook and Instagram do want you to pay for advertising. So.
yes.
Yeah.
I've never paid for advertising. Though. I think it sucks you in, and then they ask for more money and more money, more money. So beware.
I actually tried one time to boost a post, and then it didn't let me, and I was like,
you have to pay something.
It's God's will. I'm not going to boost.
Yeah.
No, but there are different. We know that you do have to pay for ads to get a wider audience, but there's specific ways to really optimize those ads. So we're not just going to do it just for no reason. We really have to learn about it first. But
Okay, but now
Makes sense. Again, it's about the quality of your followers, like how big of a followers are they? Do they engage with your post? Yehuda, back to kind of the physical world, right? No pun intended. What are some of the big differences you see? You started as working as part of a system as an employee, and then you kind of switched into starting your own business. So what are the biggest differences you see between kind of being an employee in the same field of business and now being a business owner?
So first of all, definitely my motivation to wake up to go to work. It's all on me. The harder I work, the more I earn. I get to see the bottom line. I like that there's no middleman that's paying me. I get to enjoy my earnings. The schedule, I think, is the biggest deal for me. It gives me just freedom to run my life the way that I want to. I have 3 children at home, and it really, this is something that's new to me since coronavirus, that I'm able to spend more time with the family. It's called perspective. Now that I see what life is about, it's something that, so I am taking a hit, but it's actually some of the hit that I'm taking is just, I'm deciding that sometimes I'm going to sleep, sometimes I'm not taking on new work. You have to think about the long game in terms of that. Sorry, what was the question again?
Well, the question was the differences between you owning a business right now and being an employee before.
Yeah, for sure. The scheduling, I was talking about the creative freedom. I like helping people my way. I don't like when someone tells me how I need to help someone. It's also because I like to give a little extra. So if somebody comes for physical therapy for the knee, sometimes if they need to lose a few pounds, if I give them a tip how to lose a few pounds, it takes tens of pounds off their knee. And it helped me in physical therapy. So I ended up using my knowledge in nutrition, and it helped me in therapy. So that's something that, having that creative freedom, deciding when it's applicable, and I make the decision for my treatment.
Great. And just because we already alluded to a little bit in the beginning, but when we were talking over the phone, you did mention kind of a story of taking a risk during COVID, and then it's kind of paying off later. I know there's a lot of our audience who might be kind of, hesitant to see how COVID is changing the landscape, but you actually have kind of a story of taking that risk. Can you share that with our audience?
Well, I always knew that that I had to play the long game. I need to, if I throw a rock into the river, it'll create a ripple. I have to wait for that ripple to really, and this also connects to the best type of clientele. I think you'll agree, Joy and Hedva Dan, that the best type of clientele is really word of mouth, because that's going to be your core. That's the people that you don't need to really persuade. They're already yours. Now you just have to provide them with the good work that they were promised that they were going to get by you. So, yeah, did I answer the question?
So what happened during COVID? What did you do?
During COVID, the risk that I took was, first of all, I invested in the gym. I spent thousands of dollars to be able to redo a basement over here that was able, it's not an investment that I saw a return in the first couple of months when things were rough, but I had confidence that people eventually, movement is too powerful. So eventually people will return, people need a movement system, especially there are no gyms now. So what are you doing at home, and is it safe? I also, I took a risk by sitting in an empty office, just paying rent and sitting in an empty office, because I knew that eventually if we start doing good work, good local work, that ripple effect, people like to spread the good word, So if something good has been done to them, they always want to tell a friend, they want the friend to go, they want to follow up with it. I always look for a physical reaction in my clients to see if they really, they intend to follow up, and I try to get people to especially these times, people should know that physical therapy is open. People would have thought because it's too close, there would have been a problem, but we solved those problems. So that was the most important thing during COVID time, while I was sitting in an empty office, just to spread the word that it's okay, you guys could come back, take care of the fear that society has now. That was the
Great. Great. That's super helpful. I'm sure there are plenty who are in COVID right now dealing with the same issue.
About free work. Okay, I think somebody meant about free work. No, so this is something that changed. Another opinion that I had with COVID. Before COVID, I thought that free work really cheapens my product, and that it's not worth it, because not only will I earn less, but the person in front of me won't appreciate it enough. Now I have a slightly different opinion. Depends what type of free work, but free work often comes back to you. So you don't really know in what way, but in times like this, you have to try to launch yourself where you want to be, and provide free work. You don't look at it as free if it's part of what earned you money eventually.
That's very true. So before we give it to our audience for Q&A, just wanted to kind of throw this to every one of you. We'll go through each of you. What is kind of a piece of advice, having been in business for years now, each and every one of you, that you would give to people who are now considering to start their own business? Hedva Dan, you wanna start with this one?
I think definitely something that you enjoy. That's something to start with, and then do some research. I mean, I wouldn't say necessarily okay, I need a 2-4 year degree. Maybe you do need that, but just do a little research and maybe shadow somebody, free work, practice. I mean, there's so much. I think we can just talk about this for a whole hour, but but yeah, I think that might be something that's valuable. What do you think, Hedva?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Awesome. Joy.
So I would say that you should definitely be passionate about what you're going into, especially if it's something you're going to be doing like full time all day, every day. And also, a pointer is, like I was saying before, even though you're going to start off small, everyone starts somewhere. And don't let yourself get taken advantage of. Like I was saying, specifically, I guess, in the Instagram world. And I would always highlight customer service. Just make sure that whatever you're doing it well. And I think that your customers see that. If you provide a good quality service, that's like what brings them back and what gives the word of mouth when they go and talk to their friends and stuff. So I would say those are the most important things.
Awesome. Yehuda.
Yeah, so to me, it was really the skill stacking. The biggest recommendation is if you, I mean, as the follow-up for Joy is, if you have a passion and you want to follow it, start stacking skills, not only that relate to that passion specifically, but things around it. Right? If you're a movement therapist, maybe you're interested also in psychology, that could help you a lot also. So every little, be interested in different things that can help you. You don't know at what point, but that could come. Like, for example, my skills with teaching over the phone came handy now with telehealth. So you never know when it comes back at you. Start stacking skills. Eventually, it'll return.
Awesome. I like that saying, stacking skills.
I just would say one more thing. Being passionate and loving something is really, it's amazing. And it's important to be able to start your business with something that you enjoy, but it's also important to have something to fall back on. When Dunn and I started, one of the reasons why we could do this, and we did it all independently, like meaning we didn't take loans from a bank, we didn't get help from the families, we did it all our own because I was working full time. And then that freed Dunn up to be able to work on the editing, to work on the business, to work out everything else, do all the research he needed to do about what equipment we needed. It also, and I remember this milestone when we hit that mark where we broke even in the business, where we were no longer using savings or living paycheck to paycheck in the beginning.
I would say,
Be smart.
That's important too, especially in photography. Things can get very expensive. Don't buy anything. If you haven't received something, or let's say, you do a family shoot for, let's say, $100, then, we would spend that 100 towards, the gear. So I would make sure that we would never, go under.
Right. He was very good at finances. I'm not as good at it.
Still working on it, but
but definitely, I wouldn't want to give anybody the impression that this is easy work. I think I can speak on behalf of everybody in a small business that this is a tremendous amount of work. It takes we're in it mind, body, and soul, right? Like it's 24/7 for us. There's never really a vacation. Even if we're away, we're on our phones, we're connecting with people. People are contacting us. I know from experience of speaking with Joy that, you have to be good at a lot of different things, not just the one thing you're doing, right? I remember when we were speaking, Joy, we were talking and she was saying something to me like, not only do I have to be a really good baker, but I also have to be a really good photographer, and I have to know how to write things normally.
I'm not. I've got to work on that.
I like what you post. That's not I would hope our cameras are taking, and our skill is taking better pictures than an iPhone, but it's very good. And
mine are all iPhone
everything you post.
Yeah, I guess that's good.
This is an investment. It's an investment in your time. It's an investment financially as well. It's an investment in your emotions too. And we get caught up with it too. We want to make sure people are happy, and that's where I fall a little bit too much, right? And Dunn, and having a husband who's supportive the way Dunn is with me, and being able to really hold my hand through this has been amazing.
And it helps. It definitely helps. When you have a partner that you get along with, you support each other, and it definitely helps. It's a joy.
I would never ever be able to do this without Dunn. I would never be able to do this without him.
I mean,
I'm okay, but he's amazing.
You're a real team. And Dan, I was waiting for the first Joy pun to come, and it only took us 50 minutes. This has been great. I want to give the opportunity to our audience to ask some questions. I've gotten some questions sent to me directly, so we'll start with those. And obviously, if people want to ask questions, feel free to put them in the chat. First one, I want to, Danica, I want to ask you, because you kind of alluded to some of this as well. But Bradley asked, what was the experience like of moving from a stability of working for someone else to building your own company from the ground? So what was that transition like? You talk about moving from, having one person work to breaking even, and then obviously being able to do this full time. So talk about what's that transition like? What's that experience like?
How about you start with Joy
uh,
or someone else? Or you're talking. You want us to answer first, right?
I think he was asking us.
Oh.
Yeah.
Was he asking us?
I mean, everybody did that, didn't everybody else do that too?
Yes. I mean,
But you guys both did it together, meaning like both your jobs were like sort of to move into, like I did that. I worked in an office first, but I always had Benji, like working somewhere else, not in my small business.
I guess for me also, there was also a shift for me when I became a special ed teacher. So I was working at SAR as an employee, and then after I got my master's, I became what's called a SETS provider, where I work one-on-one with kids. And that transition was very scary because I was working on my own. I had cases, it was like a whole thing, but basically I wasn't getting a paycheck from September 1st. I was only getting a paycheck and once I got approved for the kids I was working with. So when Dunn and I started the business, I had already been working as a special ed teacher for, I don't know, 2-3 years. I kind of knew the process at that point. So it was very scary because there's always those couple of months in the beginning of the year that I'm not getting a paycheck. So we didn't really start full into the business until like December of 2017, 20 something 3-ish years ago.
It was just like a few months ago, right?
But again, like you have to have savings for this. If you want to start a business and both of you want to go into it, do not go into it blindly. You have to have savings. You have to have some type of a support system. And I would say even an emotional support system is really important. It could be very hard to be alone and to be doing everything on your own. And having your family and your friends to support you and cheer you on. We definitely had a lot of support from our good friends in the area, not only as clients, but also as cheerleaders. Jessica Bartel was still one of our favorite fans. And she continues to be a huge support for us. She recommends us all the time. She's used us countless times, but like you really gotta do this smartly. It wasn't easy.
Smartly.
I don't know how to say that. I'm not good with words. That's not my forte. And that is something I struggle with when we post. I sound really crazy sometimes. I sound like but we also like when you're posting, you feel really like I feel these things.
Let's try to focus on
the questions.
I think you touched on it very well.
Touched on it, or did I get to the point?
You got to the point very well. Joy, so we got a question for Rafina here. What's the best approach when adding photos on Instagram? She asked things like, is it very necessary to use hashtags? She says she's new to Instagram. So I think in general, kind of walk us through the process of how you decide to pick a certain picture, and then also, the best approaches as to hashtagging, etc.
Right. So obviously you're going to pick a picture that represents whatever you are selling. We're talking about a business, not like a home Instagram account. So you're going to choose like a picture that represents you in the best possible way. So I am not a professional photographer. I only shoot on my iPhone. Maybe I definitely edit them as much as my limited skills allow. And then, so then I go to the next stage. Hashtags are allows you to bring in new people to your page that aren't necessarily following you. On Instagram, you can also be following a hashtag. so your pictures will automatically come up on someone that's following Celebration Cake or Homemade or something like that. The other thing with so people definitely follow. Oh, the other thing is that it's searchable, right? So if I'm looking for bat mitzvah cookies, and I will go through, and your picture will always come up. If like, I mean, it might not come up at the top, but as they scroll through, they're finding your stuff, even though they're not following you. So it's extremely important.
I also want to say to that effect, Joy, that tagging vendors in your post is a way for to get connected and to get reposted by them. So
Yeah.
let's say we were doing a cake smash and they used one of Joy's cakes. Definitely, we not only send them the pictures, but we're also posting them in the photos so that they can see it. If they like it and they want to share it, they can share it. I just discovered Instagram stories, which I had a lot of fun with recently.
Just updated them.
Not much to Dun's chagrin. But like really tagging people is important. I found that out also. You also feel that way about people. You really do appreciate everyone that makes that thing happen, whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah. Also tagging people lets people like recognize you also. Like that's
right.
when you're working with influencers or even brands like like Baker's Choice, or I got sheet trays from the Kosher Cook or whatever. That's how they got to me, is by me using their product first and me tagging them, and then they're like, oh, can we send you a box full?
You're breaking up a lot, Joy.
So but tagging, oh man, tagging is definitely important. Is it better now?
I don't know.
Yes.
Keep talking.
Does everyone else hear that, or
Yeah.
is it just me?
Is it?
Or us?
It could be. I have 4 kids on iPads on Wi-Fi, so it could be they're stealing my connection away. Trying to keep them quiet.
Great. Well, we're hitting the hour mark. Obviously, we're very appreciative for every single one of our guests. Before we log off, if people want to know more about each of your businesses, if people want to follow you on social media, what's the best way to do that? Joy, how about we start with you?
So I'm at Joy of Cakes on Instagram, and also there is a Facebook page of Joy of Cakes as well. So those are the best places to reach me, and all my contact information is listed there.
Great. Yehuda?
So I'm not on social media per se, but I have an Instagram account. You can message me there, and a Facebook account. You can message me there. I'm practicing here in Riverdale, so if you're interested, please come in. If you want to make an exercise system or anything physical therapy related, we're close by.
And what's the handle on Instagram if people want to follow you?
So nothing's going on Instagram right now, just so you guys know, but it's Yehuda Daniel PT.
Great.
PT,
And
physical therapy or personal training. You guys decide.
Okay, we gotta follow you guys. I'm ready. I'm
We
already
are
following.
we are on Instagram as Headband Dan Photography. We are on Facebook at the same handle, Headband Dan Photography. Headband Dan is one word, Hedva, the A from Hedva, whatever. And then we also have a website. You can text or call me anytime. The other thing we also want to just make mention before everybody runs away is during COVID, Dunn and I were trying to find ways to help the community and support local businesses. And we started a project called the Bring Back, Give Back Project. It's a little bit of a name, so I apologize for that. But it kind of encapsulates both aspects, where we go to different businesses, and we did this with Joy, and we half did it with Daniel.
It started raining. And
whatever. We're gonna feature Daniel soon. But
Some of the elements don't work in Riverdale. Sun goes down.
We've had the pleasure of speaking to and getting to know a bunch of different local shops. We just featured John's Botany Bay. We did Kai Fan. We have Moss Cafe is coming up soon. We have Corner Cafe. We actually just finished with them, so that's coming up hopefully this week. And then that's part one of the project, and the other part is we felt a tremendous amount of gratitude, as I'm sure the entire world does. I hope the entire world does, to all the frontline workers, whether they're medical staff, whether they're
Physical therapists.
right. Right. So Yehuda's kind of like both ends, right? Yeah. So he's in the medical field in the way that he's helping people, and then he's also a small business. So he kind of hits both aspects for us. But we just invite the community to go and check it out. It's been an amazing journey for us as well as people, right? I mean, it's just hearing people talk about what they're struggling with, things that are helping them. The first one that we posted was Cappuccino, with the help of Aliza Abrams. Sorry, I keep thinking of her Abrams, but Aliza Koenig helped connect us with him because she was doing the TRM Pizza Brigade. It was all connection. I'm bad with the story, but it's all written up. So don't depend on me. But that's been really like inspirational for us, and we're struggling with how to help the community and how to help ourselves feel like we're doing something positive. And this is a way that we feel that and it's something that's not, it's COVID related in the way that's when it started, but it's something that we're anticipating continuing for a bit of time. We really want to be able to feature, if not all, then most of the local places here. And then people can tag and or let us know about heroes that they want featured as well. Our plan next is to feature the firefighters up the street, but that's going to take a little bit of time. But we just wanted to plug that for a second.
That's awesome. And that's a really powerful note to end. And that's really amazing. I want to thank, our panelists, Yehuda, Joy, Hetva, Dan, for being on the panel and sharing your stories. Really, really grateful. Obviously,
thank you, Moishi.
No problem. Want to thank
TRM for this opportunity.
Want to thank everyone from the TRM community, our participants in the chat who've been so great throughout the process for coming. After the high holidays, there'll be another event, which more information should be coming out soon. And our plan is post Chagim to have events every single month. But really appreciate everyone for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to see the chat. I didn't get to see anything. How do I see that? I don't want to
side.
On. Bye, guys. Thank you guys for coming.
Thanks,
Come
everyone.
join us. Say hi if you see us in the street. But don't end the chat because I want to read it.
Oh.
How do you?
Can you copy
I'm bad at this. I don't know.